Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome into Uncle Jimmy's podcast. Today's episode is not for the faint of heart. It's for the brave. It's for those who have lived through hell and somehow still found a way to reach for the light. Because today, we're sitting down with someone who embodies what it means to rise up when life tries to break you down. Tammy Vincent grew up in a world where chaos was normal and survival was never guaranteed. She knows what it's like to grow up under the shadows of addiction, to witness pain most of us couldn't imagine, and to carry wounds that don't always heal with time. But what makes Tammy different is that she refused to let her past define her future. Today, she's not surviving, she's leading. Tammy has turned her pain into purpose as a trauma-informed ACOA coach, helping adult children of alcoholics heal from deep emotional scars. She uses cutting-edge tools like bioresonance frequency scanning to help people rebalance their energy naturally. And as an NLP practitioner and addiction recovery specialist, she guides others to reconnect with their selves, with their true selves, without the dependency of pills, labels, or fear. Tammy's journey is about truth, raw, unfiltered, uncomfortable truth, because sometimes healing begins not with pretending everything's fine, but with saying out loud, "This happened to me, and I made it through." So pull up a chair, open your heart, and get ready for a real conversation about pain, healing, and the power of transformation. This is one of those stories that reminds us why empathy matters, why truth matters, and why hope, no matter how small, is still stronger than fear. Tammy Vincent, welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast. We are honored to walk this road with you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited. So, Tammy, take us back, right? When you look back at your childhood, what's the first memory that still surfaces for you? And how do you make peace with it today?
Really, the very first one was actually being left at a bus stop when I was 3.
Crazy,
Getting
right? What was that? What was that like? Take people back. So what happened? Mom left you at the bus stop and
and I stood there for a couple hours and tried to think I was gonna walk to school and didn't know how to get there, obviously, so turned around and ended up getting delivered about 2 o'clock back on my doorstep to my mother, and her just being like, "Oh, where were you?" Like, literally, I was 3.
wow. Wow. And how'd you get to the bus stop? Did she drop you off? Or you walked to the bus stop? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, and just, like, with her. I mean,
Yeah.
and to just leave you, just leave you there. But that was kind of a normal thing. I mean, I was 3 and people say you don't have memories when you're 3, but a couple of you do. I remember the house I lived in, I remember my bedroom, I remember my ceiling. I mean, you remember some things.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's trauma too.
hmm,
People don't realize that, they can say, you know, you don't remember this, you don't remember that. Obviously, you'd remember being left for hours at a time at a bus stop, right?
right,
Regardless of your age, regardless of
right.
your age.
And
So
it's
how do you
funny
make
because
peace with that today?
everything I've kind of just through all of my 30 years of working on all this stuff, I've just come to determine then realize that everything that happened, especially when she was involved, was just another bad set of experiences that it really had, it just happened. I wasn't angry. I was mad for a long time because obviously I wasn't mad then. I was scared then, but then as I grew up and I started remembering these things, you go through that anger phase until you flip that around and you can see the abuser as the same wounded person that you were.
That you were, yeah.
I mean, I can picture my grandfather was a child psychiatrist. So he knew better and he treated her the exact same way she treated me.
Yeah.
So she was a child psychiatrist. So until I could really flip it and go, wow, she was not in her right mind when she was doing those things, that's when it started really changing.
Yeah, and to my listeners, right? I think you hit it. I think you said 30 years, right? You've been working through it. So I always tell people this, right? And I'm not, trying to make anyone laugh or make a joke about it, but people don't realize, right? People think that you go on a healing journey, right? You go, I tell people all the time, the best time for me when I was able to do the best work on myself and go through trauma and relive it and go through it and heal from it was in the dark, right? By yourself in your own thoughts, and you go through it and you see, the people, whether they abuse you or whether, you may have abused them, because people don't think about it. They think just, sometimes the trauma is just one sided. Sometimes it can be two sided, right? But healing, right? Growing in it doesn't happen overnight, people, right? That's what I'm getting at. It
No,
doesn't happen in 24 hours, you know?
absolutely not.
No. And there may be instances still, right, where you do fight through the trauma and you get through it and you come out on the other side where you do notice something and you say, hey, and when you when you heal through the trauma, it's almost like a clarity, right? You can see things now much more clearer than you could back then, right? Because you were a kid at 3, you can't process that. Hey, mom left me at a bus stop. Why? You just think, oh, that's normal. That's life. Mom drops me off at the bus stop and leaves me.
Right.
You know,
It's when you start trying to develop those relationships and do those adulting things that you go, "Huh, well, I wonder what that really did to me." With
yeah,
me, it was when I was getting ready to have my first child and realized that I didn't know what unconditional love felt like. And I was like, "Oh my god, how am I gonna have a kid? I don't even know what that feels like." Like, I don't even know what it's supposed to look like or feel like, and that's kinda what catapulted me because everybody kinda has that aha moment, like, "Wow, I'm not the person I need to be or
to
want
be,
to be."
yeah.
And that was
And what
mine,
age
and
was
I was
that?
26.
27. Oh yeah. So circle back to the house, right? What was your house like life? Yeah, living with, was I know mom was in the picture. Was dad in the picture?
At that point, he was in the Navy, so
Okay.
he was not around at that
He was
time.
not
As a
around.
matter of fact, he ended up getting out of the Navy because I think I was 5, my sister was a year old, and my brother was 7, and my grandmother called. We lived in Ohio. My grandmother called from New Jersey, and somehow we told her on the phone that we had been alone for 3 days. And she got in the car and came and picked up, and the only thing I remember at that time was making cold grilled cheese sandwiches because we weren't allowed to use the stove.
So
But, somehow we got my little sister fed and everything, but she came and picked us up, drove 12 hours. I don't even think my mom came looking for us for about a week, and that's when he got an honorable discharge out of the Navy. He said, "I can't do this," but he had his own demons to fight, so he came back from Vietnam with severe PTSD and addiction and all those things that went along with it. So
yeah. I often say, right, too, in the young men that went over to fight in Vietnam, right? In all wars, right? They go over as a kid, right? And everybody back home when they come home, they all want that same kid to walk back through that door, right? But unfortunately, through war, they're coming back damaged and broken and hurt in ways that we'll never know, right? In ways
right.
that we'll never know. Nor could we, even comprehend what they've seen, especially in Vietnam, and things they've seen and went through. And so it's almost like, you want to think that, hey, he's coming home, he's going to be fine, and he comes back with his own demons. So that's tough, right? But what was it like every day with mom while dad's away? What's it like with mom every day? Is she's not around, she's not present, she's doing her own thing? You guys are taking care of yourself?
She's drinking.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was pretty much the gist of it. I can remember I laugh because when people talk about PTSD and I have the most clear memory of when I realized exactly what it was. And when I was 4 or 5 years old, I was in preschool, so my brother had gone off to kindergarten, I guess, or 1st grade, and every day we used to watch As the World Turns, and she would force feed me these soft-boiled eggs. And I know it's a crazy story, but I hated them. And I was like 4 or 5 years old, so I would fight every day. And some days they would get stuffed down my throat. Some days I would get locked in the closet. Some days I would get beaten. It just depended on her mood at the time, but it was a fight every day. And I remember like literally 30 years later, I was sitting there talking to my kids, and all of a sudden I just vomited on the table. And I was like, what the heck did that come from? And it was because in the living room across the house, As the World Turns music played.
Started playing.
And it was just this visceral, like, immediate, just bodily black. I was
Almost a trauma response, right?
well, it was a completely a trauma response, and that was the first time I really, really grasped the concept of how much something stays in your body, and then no matter until you deal with it, it's gonna stay there. And
Exactly.
so much of it is senses. It's so sensory, a sound, a noise, a smell, a touch, anything.
Yeah. And that's the big thing, right? 'Cause one of the biggest things becomes, you have to deal with it, right? And it goes back to like me saying, hey, you're not going to heal in 24 hours, right? But you're also not going to heal through the trauma or get through the trauma unless you do the work. The work has to be done as well, right?
Right. Luckily, there are ways now that you can literally get rid of a lot of that stuff without actually reliving it. It used to be the normal was to go to a psychotherapist, a hypnotherapist, whatever it was, go back, you picture the couch and you have to relive that.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's so barbaric. And now you have to make peace with the fact that it happened and you have to get it out of your body somehow because it's all stored in your tissues. But as far as like having to actually go back and put yourself there and remember it, you
Yeah.
luckily don't have to
Yeah, we
with
have
a
to
lot of
basically
them.
be present, right? Be present in the moment of, "Hey, I'm a six-year-old kid, I'm a six-year-old girl sitting here and, mom's force feeding me hard-boiled eggs." And that's it. We're gonna talk about some of the things that you do in a bit, and I'm excited to learn about it and hear what it is. And so when was the moment, right, Tammy, when you realized you had to break free from the cycle that you grew up in?
Probably that moment when I realized I didn't know what unconditional love was because I was reading that book, Love You Forever, and it's like about that, it's a kid's story. But I realized if I don't do something, it's literally going to just be one more generation of my kids being jacked up and abandoned and emotionally neglected. And I really was lost. Like, I didn't know how to have a relationship. I didn't know how to, when I know the last episode, I think you were talking to her about boundaries and all of those big concepts that we all kind of understand. And I
Yeah,
understood none of them.
none of them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
None of them.
I say it often, Tammy, right? Myself, I'm 41, but I'm just learning so much of myself over the last, 7 or 8 months of doing the work and putting in the work. And, I still struggle. I have anxiety and depression, but I still struggle sometimes day to day with it. But I don't let it define me anymore. There was days where I couldn't get out of bed and I'd stay in bed. And, now some days if I just get up and take a shower and head off to work, it's a success, right? I got up, I got out of bed. And this healed, I mean, this stems from, my dad dying 16 years ago and not being able to process it, right? Fully emotionally as an adult. And I took so much of it into my relationships and friendships and failed marriage. I did so much of that, right? And I didn't know why I was talking to people the wrong way, or I didn't know why I was blowing up off the handle, and I didn't know why I was a jerk. And I look back now and I'm able to be like, yeah, you know what? But I tell people this, I was able to stop trying to look at relationships and all that and see anyone else's role in it, but my own, right?
Yep.
And
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 that's
that's
hard
where
to
I
do.
started. Yeah, it's hard to do. It definitely is because I've been one that's been able to um, subvert and point the fingers everywhere else and get away with it for 41 years. And people like you are very good at it. And I go, but I didn't even know I was doing it, right? I didn't even have a
Right.
clue. Now I
Right.
look at it and there's, certain things at work where I could be like, and I'm just like, just gonna be honest and upfront about it. That's it,
Hmm. Yep. And
Because if you go back to the old patterns, you're gonna keep going,
yeah. Yep.
you know?
You absolutely will keep just repeating and repeating until you actually learn what you were put on the earth to learn and learn from it. And, I use that expression all the time, and it's not my expression, but, look at things as happening for you, not to you. And when you can do that, then you can start to go, okay, well, why did I get drunk and wreck my father's car? What am I going to learn from that? Not, I'm a horrible person and he shouldn't have given me the car anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Exactly.
like, you take yourself out of victim mode. Once you
Yeah,
take yourself out
that's
of victim mode.
one of the biggest things. Yeah.
Mhm.
Victim mode.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's disempowering to take yourself out of victim mode, like you kind of while you're healing, you want somebody to blame. That's what your natural instinct is. You wanna be mad at someone, but at the end of the day, it happened, and once you realize it happened and why you're acting the way you're acting, now it's time to take a little responsibility.
Time to take the accountability, exactly, and that's
Mhm.
one of the biggest things, I tell people this all the time. One of the biggest things I think people put on the first thing in the morning when they get up is what I say. They get up and put a mask on, right? That's the first thing they put on. Very rarely do you meet authentic people nowadays, and I say this is my newest thing when I say to people, "Good morning, how you doing today?" And they'll give you the occasional, "I'm great." And I go, "No, how you really doing today?"
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling, that are going through a lot. And I always now look at things, right, of like holding the door, saying good morning, how you doing today, how you really doing, just checking in on people, because you know what, that could help somebody's day, that could make somebody's day, you know.
Absolutely.
And you don't think of those things. So Timmy, pain, right? Pain often becomes a teacher. What lessons did your pain teach you that joy never could?
Less, to be empathetic, to be able to put myself in other people's shoes and understand that we all go through stuff.
Yeah,
And
you're allowed to swear here if you have to.
yeah, okay.
Don't worry about it.
I mean,
We drop the
we
f
do.
bombs and it comes out.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we all go through shit, and you can't use that, like you said, as a crutch to you have to make a choice. You either wanna move forward or you wanna stay where you're at, because 'cause you're either stuck or you're moving forward. You're either dying or you're growing. Those are the only 2 options. So, I think that's the biggest thing is you're not a victim, and honestly, I like to say that we were born these beautiful, divine, perfect creatures, and then life happened. And every time life happened and we got lifed on and it wasn't pleasant and we buried it and buried it, we put on this lens of the world that just sucked, that world was unsafe and that people were bad and that we weren't worthy and all this crap. Only we can take off those glasses and wear another lens,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Nope, that's true. Because I think so many people go through with, go through life changing the lenses, right? In moving the goalposts of, I lived often as waiting for the next shoe to drop, right? When's the next shoe gonna drop? And always waiting for something bad to happen. Until I started realizing, look, if I'm gonna sit there and wait for something bad to happen or expect something bad to happen, something bad's going to happen. If I sit
Mhm.
there and think good things are gonna happen, good things will happen, right? And it's just so much of a mind shift and going through it. I can't explain it. I can't explain it any more clear to people is once you live your life a certain way and going through trauma and hurt, when you're able to process all that and see it and come out on the other side with clarity, right? Once you start seeing things so clear, I've waited 41 years, right, Tammy? And I say this, I was looking for love my whole life, right? And I found it at 41 years old. And people ask me, well, who was it? Who was she? Was she beautiful? And I said, no, I found the love for myself, right? And I was never able to have that. I don't know why, but I was never able to have that love for myself. Now, when I have love for myself, it's like I almost love everybody else now because I just want to spread the love and share the love, you know?
Mhm. Well, it's like people that they when they grow up in the kind of dysfunction, and I don't know much about your past. I don't know how your, home life was, but I know when you grow up and it's beaten into you every single day that you are not lovable and not
Yeah.
worthy of love, that's going to carry you pretty far until, like you said, you can learn to do that. But and I know some people are like, I don't deserve it. I don't feel worthy to do this or self care. Who am I? But I tell people, then if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the other people because the most selfish thing you can do, being that the world is all based around energy. And like you said, the energy you put into the world is what's going to ripple out.
Yeah.
The most selfish thing you can do is give people the worst of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So get yourself healed.
Yeah. So true, right, Tammy? I grew up with, I say it all the time. I had the perfect mom and dad. They were the most loving people I've ever met, unconditional love, right? And then I had Nana and Papa and my other Nana and lots of aunts and uncles. And it was a village, right? It took a village. But I don't know where it got lost in translation or how I started feeling that way. I came from a family with an abundance of unconditional love, right? And I always found myself, right, always heaping that unconditional love I received in a lot of places, sometimes on people, and on things and on, everywhere in my life, heaping that unconditional love on everyone when and now I'm starting to realize that unconditional love shouldn't, you can give it to everybody, but it's not going to, I can't save the world per se, right? And you try to, when you're an empath and everything affects you, you try to, right? You try to do that. It's just natural. But I think it's also natural as humans, we try to do that, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You
I
know?
mean, yeah, to some degree, absolutely. And like you said, you can't absorb it all. You can't save all the people, and you have to be able to function and love yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, and that's I think the big thing is if you're giving with absolutely nothing in expecting nothing in return,
Yep.
that's giving that unconditional love.
Yep.
But you have to be able to do that to yourself.
To yourself, exactly. And that can be the hardest part for some people. So, Tammy, how did you discover the strength, right, to start sharing your story publicly despite the vulnerability it demands?
I started teaching and I started seeing those little hollow eyes that I can remember feeling. Like I can remember watching kids sleeping on the desk and I just knew like, oh my God, there's so many kids. I mean, they say 1 in 4 kids is growing up with at least one addicted parent. So that doesn't even include all the other divorce and suicides and drugs, and it doesn't even include all the other stuff. So we're talking probably 3 out of 4 are having a home life that is not quite that great, honestly. So I just started realizing, I can help these kids as a teacher. I can reach 26 a year because that's what I teach. But I'm like, no, I need to reach the masses. And as I started reaching the masses, I started really realizing that it's the parents that are still holding on to all this stuff. It's the generational curse
Trauma.
of what's going on that needs to be stopped. So parents are still, even though you're helping the kids with self-esteem and emotional intelligence and boundaries and all these things they're not learning at home, the parents don't even know it. So it's just going to keep replicating itself over and over again. And I had gone through a lot of different modalities. I was throwing spaghetti at every single wall, hoping stuff would stick. So by the time I was like, okay, it's time, I had a massive toolbox of tools. You
I
know,
was just gonna
I
say
could do
that, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was EFT certified. I could do, EFT tapping. That's actually how I started my coaching business. Is I was doing EFT tapping with a total stranger in an airport, and my friend said to me, "Do you do this for everybody?" I said, "If they need it." And I was always, everybody's best friend and mentor, and I could make anybody have a better day. And I just realized that there's so many millions of people out there that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s that don't even understand that there's a better life out there, that there is joy out there for them.
Yeah, and I think, right, Timmy, a lot of us get stuck in the and I say it all the time on the podcast is, I think a lot of us get stuck in that Groundhog Day, right?
Mhm.
Where that's all we know. That's all we've been that's all we've been taught. That's all we've learned. Get up, go to work, come home. If you have kids, feed the kids, take care of the kids, put them to bed, then go to bed and get up and do it
Yep.
over all over again.
Yeah.
When
Forgetting that there is joy. Forgetting
exactly.
that there are moments that can be really good, not just going through the motions of life.
Yeah. I used to say it, right, Timmy, before, I used to wake up. I live 10 minutes down the road from work. I used to wake up at 7:40 in the morning and rush to work. So now that I'm thinking more clear and enjoying life and trying my best to be the best man that I can be, one of the biggest things I do now is once or twice a week, I get up extra early and I go watch the sunrise.
Mm,
It's one of
I
the
love
best
that.
moments in the world. Like when I do that, my day, it's the best day I ever have because, for the week because it's like, it's so beautiful and I'm having my coffee and watching it and I'm enjoying it. And I'm like, wow, 7 months ago, I was crawling out of bed, 20 minutes before I had to be there. And now here I am an hour and a half early watching the sunrise, but it's so beautiful. And it puts you into perspective that, we're all in this together and we should all be picking each other up, helping each other out instead of putting each other down and hurting people. But I enjoy it. My journey that I'm on, it's so exciting and enlightening. And I never thought that I'd uh, be able to see so much joy and have so much joy in my life.
And you don't even know, like, people don't even understand, like, something as small as that, like getting sunshine first thing in the morning, does more than just for your mental health. It's your physical health, it's your spiritual health, it's everything. Like, I actually just I was joking around with ChatGTP right before I got on here, and I said, "Take everything you know about me and do a caricature. Like, just
Okay.
do something." And it was so funny what it printed out, and on the bottom, it had a sign. It said, "Body, mind, and spirit healer." And I laughed so hard. I showed my husband. I said, "Look at this." I said, "That's what it printed out." I didn't even say that, because that's true. I mean, I had a stroke in January, and my neurologist said, "Get your butt outside within an hour of waking up and just stare at the sun. Just look up into the sky and take in the light and the daylight."
Yeah.
Just that one small thing is makes heaps of progress for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it. It's one of my big things and it's great. So, Timmy, many people carry shame, right, from things they didn't cause. How do you help others separate guilt from trauma?
Getting down to it goes back to loving yourself. It goes back to learning how to be in the present moment. You talk about anxiety and depression, and 90% of that is either worried about something that's going to happen because of memories that have something that happened in the past, or, I mean, it's just catastrophizing when none of this is going to happen. So just staying in the present and knowing that honestly, I help my people. I don't want to say wipe a clean slate, but as far as the stuff that they did out of survival, especially when they were young, absolutely wipe a clean slate. I mean, like I said, once you know what you didn't know, now it's time to take some responsibility. But am I going to go back and apologize to the stores that I stole from because my mom didn't feed me? Absolutely not. And am I going to
Yeah.
feel guilty about that? Hell no.
No.
Like, you do what your body is and your brain might have spent the first 20 years of your life just surviving. And you can't beat yourself up about that, or else you will stay in a deep, dark hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's literally just making that this just happened. These things happened and I did them, and it just happened. I'm not going to apologize. You talk about authenticity and being unapologetically you.
Yeah.
I did what I had to do. Am I going to feel bad about it? Absolutely not.
Right. That can be the hottest part, and you dig the hole deeper and deeper. And like I said, I found myself, being this person that I didn't even know who I was till I had to look myself in the mirror and come to terms with it of who I was and where I was going in life, the man I was becoming. I said it last night, right, Timmy, when I have a tattoo on my arm that says it's a world and it's the globe and it says never grow old. Well, what I wanted I think I was 29, 28 or 29, I wanted to say never grow up, right? Because I didn't want to have kids and I was married at the time, but I didn't want to do any of that. And the guy says, "You're a fucking adult. I'm not putting never grow up. You're not Peter Pan, right? And I laughed at it, right? But now at 41, that I go back and think about it, I go, what was I thinking? Like, never grow up. And I'm just starting to grow up now at 41, because I
Right.
often I often compare myself to Uncle Buck. Ever see the movie Uncle Buck? That's why it's
Yeah.
Uncle Jimmy's podcast, because I'm like Uncle Buck.
Oh,
So
that's funny.
yeah, the kids love
That's
me.
funny.
The nieces and nephews love me because I'm Uncle Buck, and they always get some money and have fun, and it's always Uncle Jimmy. So that's why it's Uncle Jimmy's podcast. So
But
Tammy, can you explain what it means to be a trauma informed ACOA coach, and what kind of breakthroughs you've seen in your clients?
So the ACOA part was originally adult children of alcoholics.
Okay.
They've now since then changed that whole umbrella to adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families because,
Okay.
like I said, dysfunction is dysfunction. So whether you grew up with an addict or you grew up with divorced parents or it doesn't matter. It did all the same things. And at the end of the day, the underlying belief of all these people is I'm not good enough, like you said. So that's where the guilt and the shame cycle spiral comes in is everything you do, you're not good enough and you're not worthy to get better, have better, do better, be better. So that whole umbrella term, that's the people and that's what I'm trying to reach is that I'm not good enough people, the people that can't be themselves because they have that embarrassment, that guilt, that shame from all these beliefs that didn't have anything to do with them. The trauma informed part is really just the training as far as I mean I have a addiction and recovery certificate. I have all those things as far as when you deal with trauma, you're really learning how to deal with a complex PTSD is what you're learning how on the books to help people with. So there's a lot of you probably went through a lot of the steps just like the inner child work where you get to love your younger self and there's all these different steps, but that's really the big umbrella picture of it is I help people just be able to become themselves without being feeling bad about it.
About it. No, it's so true. So the next question, right, is one of the biggest things. I don't know much about it, so I'm very intrigued to know. So listeners unfamiliar with bio resonance frequency scanning. What does it
Okay.
do? And how
Okay.
does it help people achieve emotional or physical balance?
Okay, so the basics, I'm going to give a quick rundown. At the end of everything, when you break us down into the smallest particles, we are all energy. And like attracts like you were talking about, what you put into the world, you get into the back
You get
because
back.
it's attracting, right? So the energy scan, everything in your body has a frequency. So have you ever heard of somebody saying, like, oh, listen to 528 hertz, it's calming?
Yeah,
Okay. So it does makes a physiological change in cells and people and in everything. So the voice scan that I do actually analyzes 171,000 different frequencies in your body from your voice. So when you talk, you hit all 10 trillion cells in your body. And so what it does is it finds imbalances. So they know what a healthy heart frequency should be and what a healthy gallbladder should be and what a healthy nervous system should be. And they know all of this. So what it does is it analyzes and it tells you where the imbalances are. And then what it does in addition to that is it sends you back balancing frequencies which have been shown and proved to balance out those frequencies. I think it's a great tool because it doesn't diagnose it, but it shows patterns of imbalance. So if it's showing you, your cortisol is really high and then all of a sudden you say, "Okay, now I'm just exhausted, but my cortisol is really low," it could be your adrenal fatigue. And what it does is it literally analyzes every single one of these frequencies and it tells a big picture story. So
it's
I use
amazing.
it a lot. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I'll give you one if you want one after. Like you should just sign up
Is
to
that
get one.
something
It's
like that's been is that fairly new?
no, it's been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, the technology behind it is the same technology they use for lie detector tests.
Oh, okay.
But this goes way back. I mean, frequencies are everything. Like when they do an ultrasound or a MRI, that's all frequencies. These are just different ways of reading them. These are just going deeper and going into like all the emotional frequencies and then taking the Chinese medicine or your meridians, your chakras and incorporating it all together.
Okay.
So it really is amazing, and people laugh when they get the report because it's like 40 some pages of reports you get. and it
Wow.
literally will point to your left calf. And a gentleman I did the other day was like, "How did it know my left calf has been cramped for 2 weeks?" I'm like, "I don't know, it just knows."
And how long does that process take?
It takes 10 seconds to talk into the microphone.
Wow.
And then it takes me behind the scenes just running the scan. But it literally takes a 10-second voice clip. And anybody listening, I can put the link in there. You are more than welcome to come experience it. It is super fun, super I say I can ask you 40 questions. I can say, "Hey, Jimmy, I know your past was this. Here's 40 questions as an intake, quote unquote, for a coaching client." And I can tell I know, I just know intuitively what's going on, what you're struggling with, and then you tell me. This basically, literally, when I write a summary after the report, will tell you everything you just told me.
And it's just from you said how long is the clip?
A 10-second clip of your voice.
That's it, and it can read all that.
It's
I'm gonna
it's
have to
really
try it after so I can give my results online and talk about it.
I would love to. Yeah, you should do it, and then we can come back to another day or another smaller thing or something and talk about it, because people are really it shows patterns though. But like somebody asked me today, because I have a little Q&A, and they said, "Well, how come this keeps coming up as X, Y, and Z when I haven't even been diagnosed with this?" And I said, "Because our bodies are so good and so resilient at protecting us and compensating and moving things around and stealing from one body system to guard another one.
Yeah.
But the energetic signals, it knows already that there is a pattern that is way off. So why not fix that before? Why not fix the fact that it's telling you that you have digestive issues before you have a bleeding ulcer?"
No, exactly. It's like, it's like putting a, like if you got a leaky pipe, it's like putting some metal over it and welding it, and it's so interesting. I can't wait to do that after. We're definitely gonna have to come back and talk about all of it, so I'm so excited.
Exactly, and that's what we do is we put Band-Aids on everything, but
Yeah.
this is a big message that I like to share with every audience is we as a society and as a world have stopped listening to our bodies.
No, no
We
doubt
listen
about it.
to our mind, but 80 to 90% of what comes into our brain starts in our body and our nervous system and then goes to our brain, not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So,
think that's almost like the Western world though, here in the West.
yeah,
We
oh
we
yeah, countries other countries are way more
advanced.
opened to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've have it here, we just don't utilize what we
Yeah.
can.
I think a lot of people too, and I say it quite often is I think a lot of people get mistaken that, you go to the doctors and there's a problem and here, unfortunately in America, I think there's a pill for everything, right? It's a pill for everything.
We consume over half the medicines in the entire world, but yet we're one of the sickest countries. So figure that
Exactly.
out. So clearly whatever
Exactly.
we're doing is not working.
Is not working exactly. So, Tammy, for someone who's walked through their darkness, what does recovery mean to you? Is it an endpoint or an ongoing practice?
It is always an ongoing. I mean, I don't like to, again, don't define, like, I don't like when people define themselves as I'm a recovered addict, because you are not. You're just a person that went through some struggles and you're continuing to grow.
To grow, yeah.
So it's a never ending as far as always growing. I can honestly, things that trigger you won't, once you let go of that specific thing, you're not going to have an emotional charge to that. Like that one's been dealt with, but I truly believe that God unlayers things as you're ready to handle them. So, yeah, it's an ongoing process, but there is a point at which you can just finally sit down at night and go, am I doing everything, being everything and saying everything that I want to without getting a gut punch in my body, like feeling something. And then when you can say that, you're pretty good. You're there. I mean, it's always something, if nothing else, it's just to remember or to reinforce what you've learned. But I don't think there's you go to AA for 7 months and then bam, I'm good. I went through the 12 steps. There's always something to unravel
No, no
because
doubt
life
about it.
keeps lifing.
Yeah, and like I said to you, it's the whole myth of, "Hey, I'm gonna heal, but I'm healing overnight. I'm good, just like I'm in recovery, but I've only been, sober 2 days, so I'm sober and I don't have to worry about the problem and issue anymore because it's never gonna come up. It's going to, you know?
But yeah, and if it doesn't, other things will come up. I love when people say, "Oh, my husband stopped drinking, it's gonna be great." No, your husband stopped drinking, it's gonna get much worse
Much more.
before he actually gets better, or else he's just gonna pick something else up to get that dopamine hit, because
Exactly.
until you actually deal with why you started drinking uncontrollably in the first place, you haven't gotten there.
You haven't gotten there exactly. So, Tammy, how does your understanding of energy and emotion intersect when helping clients heal?
Huge. Well, for one, I do Reiki, which is energy healing, so that helps. I feel like energy is absolutely everything, and if you can learn the power of how to control it and bring it in for yourself, it opens a whole new world to you. You can use energy to learn how to control pain. You can use energy to, just like you said, put that positive, wear that shirt that says Jesus loves you on the back and watch how the people around you, we all have like a little energetic force field around us. And I just feel like if everybody could just expand that force field a little bit and teach them how to do that. Like you said, getting up in the morning and, be thankful for 5 things. Listen
Yeah,
to Louise Hay, who says, tell yourself, I am valuable or I am worthy every day. 400 times she says to say it. But that is all energy, because once you start vibrating at a higher frequency, everything around you changes.
changes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
if you're down and out, I've learned that. I forget who it was when I had the discussion with her, like last month, I think, or the month before. I can't think of her name, but she was talking about it, and she had lost her son in a car crash, and she was talking about, being so down and out and almost, down to the bottom of being down and out, like on death's door, and the frequencies that come from being all the way down, compared to where she is now, which is all the way up. And it was such an enlightening thing to think of, like what she was talking about. I did some research, looked into it, and I was like, it's some people just walk through life and don't believe in any of that stuff. And once you start looking at it and seeing it and realizing that it work, we operate on frequencies, we operate on energy, and it's one of those. It's powerful. It's very much powerful when people start to realize it, see it.
And, just as a start, if you're curious about it or skeptical even, go online and just YouTube, frequencies for good sleep, frequencies for a headache, frequencies for, and you will feel different when you listen to them.
Yeah,
The ones that I have, the technology goes so deep into suppressed emotions that some people will say, it irritates them at first. And I'm like, because it's stirring up the frequencies of emotions you've had buried for 40 years. If you journal, when you start to write, you're getting it out of your body, and that energy, it's going to make you cry. It's going to make you do all that stuff. It works the same way.
yeah,
But it really is, it's interesting. As a matter of
it
fact,
is.
the app that I have, that a lot of naturopath doctors, holistic doctors, they use to help their clients, there's in my app on my phone, I have probably 400 frequencies for earaches and joint pain and bad necks and headaches, and it's crazy.
That's awesome. Well, one of the biggest things, you were talking about and you're talking about is, energy, like we're talking now, and people don't realize it. Like you said, go on, do a little bit of research on your own. Go to YouTube, check out the frequencies. It's something that works, believe it or not, people. Whether you're skeptical or not, I can tell you that. Tammy, many survivors, right, struggle to trust again. How did you rebuild your sense of safety in the world?
That was the biggest ongoing thing, because even when you build it in your mind, you still have to build it in your body. And that's what I was talking about. You can mentally, logically process all this stuff and know that you're safe in the world. But then when something comes up, it's so deep down. You have to really, really do the work to bring your unconscious level, which is where it feels unsafe, up to the conscious level and deal with it there. That's really what you have to do at the end of the day, because it's like affirmations. You can say, I love me, I love me, I love me, I feel great, I'm awesome, I'm powerful, I'm this. But then when somebody says to you, repeat the phrase, I deserve all good things, and your stomach just falls into a knot, you're not there yet. So it is all about safety. And you can actually literally, like even in a marriage, you can, just because of the underlying resentment and things that happened way back when, you can literally, you think it's that other person. That's where you start projecting. So you're like, I have this resent. I don't want to be touched. I do this, I do that. And it's all about just feeling safe for whatever reason because of the past. So trust, as far as people, the mind trust part goes a lot quicker, just by surrounding yourself with the right people, looking for the red flags, knowing the red flags, really learning how to set your boundaries, and then around your core values, and then being able to hold to them. That's a big one, because then when you start doing that, you start to trust your own judgment. When you first start out, you don't even trust your own decisions, honestly.
Yeah, that's powerful because I think, like you said, trust is something that's, like you said, in the brain first, but it's your body. It's your body that has to accept it as well because it can be one of the hardest things to be able to do is trust again.
Yep, and that's why, it's that's why I tell people sometimes just listen to your body. You might
Yeah,
get a little antsy, just start shaking, start moving, doing stuff to get you it's just anything, EMDR, all these therapies, so many of them, deep breathing in a box, all of that is just pattern interrupts. So I tell people start practicing those pattern interrupts. If you're in the zone, something doesn't feel right, just get up and change whatever you're doing,
yeah,
whether it's by anything, any way to change that.
to change that. Yeah. So when you work with people coming from traumatic backgrounds, what's the first step you encourage them to take?
Is to start to really be able to listen to their thoughts, their ideas, and their body. Because a lot of people, again, they might come to you and say, "I'm lost, I'm stuck." They're gonna be using all these words that they've just heard on social media.
Yeah,
It's really just sitting down and helping them get back to them, like
them.
feeling them, actually them, not the them that, like you said, the mask they put on. I
Yeah,
remember you probably did the same thing. First therapist I went to said, "Well, who is Tammy?" I said, "I don't know. It depends on what you want me to be.
exactly.
I can be
Yep.
anything. I can be funny. I can be professional. I can be a hussy. I can be whatever you
Yeah.
need me to be at the moment."
What do you
And
need me to be today?
to make sure I don't rock any boats or make any waves.
Exactly, exactly, and once I took the mask off, it was like, "I don't care what people think, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, it's all about, I'm gonna take care of myself, I'm gonna protect myself, I'm gonna keep myself
Mhm.
safe,"
Yep.
and getting to the point now of trying to, make others feel safe as well,
Right. And as
because
long as you're
oftentimes what were we saying, Tim?
No, I said as long as you're doing that without at nobody else's expense, like, there's nothing wrong with that. You should never have to apologize for saying or doing what you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think one of the hard things is then, when you haven't been able to keep people safe and when you're in it, right, you don't even think about it. You don't even think like, "Oh, I couldn't keep you safe," or "I couldn't keep you," you know, until you come through it all and you see it from a bigger perspective of, "Yeah, you know what? I might have not kept you safe emotionally or mentally, but, I wasn't able to realize it because I wasn't in a place where I was even able to realize my own. I wasn't even able to keep myself safe, right?"
Right. Yep.
So I like this question. So how can people who haven't experienced trauma learn to better support and understand those who have?
You change the way you use your words and give everybody the benefit of the doubt is the best way I could like, if you see someone and they're grumpy, don't ask them what's wrong with you. Like, that question should be taken out of the vocabulary.
Or why are you so grumpy today?
Yeah, or, "What's going on? Is there anything I can do? How about something like that?" I just try to say I started that when I was 1st grade teaching, giving kids the benefit of the doubt. People genuinely want to be good. People don't wanna wake up in the morning and hate their life. They hate their life because something bad happened to them. So, when they're grumpy, just try to get in their shoes and understand that something might have happened to them, and that'll keep you from being reactive. Because if you say to somebody that looks really upset, instead of "What's wrong with you?" if you say, "Is there anything I can do to help you?" Wow, what a again, there goes that ripple effect. But I think that's the biggest thing. We tend and especially when it comes with severe mental, crises kinda thing, we stay steer away from it because we don't know how to deal with it. And sometimes all people just need is a friend
That's
or
it.
someone to say, it's like with grief. Don't try to fix them. Just be there for them.
Yeah. I had a guy on Laverne last night. Laverne's biggest thing was, and he hit it right in the head, I think, to if someone's going through something and hold space for them, right? Hold
Mhm,
space for them. And that hit home, right? Like hold space for them. And people may not understand what that means, but it should just be there. Just be present.
mhm,
Sometimes you just may need, I had someone on who said they were going to hurt themselves and they had a friend that came over and he listened and he sat there and it was two guys and his buddy hugged him all night long and held
yep.
him, you know?
That's all people need is just someone to listen so that they don't feel so isolated or they don't feel unworthy or whatever they feel that got them to that place in general. But I just think that's the biggest thing is just people need to stop judging. We can't walk in anybody else's shoes. We're not in their shoes. So be a little more empathetic to the fact that maybe they're having a rough day or having a tough time. And if they're in a crisis, then I do suggest, have a couple tricks that you can give them if they're really stressed out or really anxious, just to help them. But at the end of the day, I mean, and I have people. My best friend has breast cancer, and I was like, I don't know what to say to you to make it better, but just know that I'm here for whatever you need.
Whatever you need. Yeah.
That's
You
all.
need to
That's all
talk,
you
you need
could
to
do
scream, you need
sometimes.
to yell, you need a ride, whatever you need, you know?
Mhm.
I'll be there for you. So, Tammy, you've talked about doing raw, unfiltered truth. What does living authentically look like for you now?
Being able to go, say, do anything and not have to worry or look behind my shoulder and know that somebody is gonna judge it or care or tell me not to say that or make me feel any differently than I do. It just that those days are gone.
So, 3 more questions before we wrap up, right? Who was the first person to believe in you when you couldn't believe in yourself?
I would have to say my 3rd therapist.
I love that you point that out, right? Your third therapist, because I tell people this often, right? Unfortunately, right now in America, and I hate to say this, we have a huge mental health crisis. And what I'm trying to do on my mental health Mondays is break that stigma, have everybody come on and talk about it because I think we need to talk about it. But one of the things I also get frustrated with is the accessibility, right? Of being able to see a provider. So many people sometimes I talk to, hey, they told me I have to wait 4 months, or they're not taking new patients, or they don't take my health care, and it's like if someone is in a crisis, they're in a crisis. They need to be seen. Just like if someone broke their arm, they would go to the doctors. They need to be seen. If someone's having some problems, they should be able to walk in the hospital and they should be able to be directed to the right place and taken care of. And I think we're failing a lot of people here in America with that. Because also still the stigma of men not being able to speak up, men not being able to talk about it. We're told to be strong. We can't cry. You're supposed to be, and I think it's just the wrong message to that people send, right? It's okay not to be okay. And I tell people all the time, 988, right? The crisis
Mhm.
suicide hotline, right? You may feel it at 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody's around. You can't talk to anybody. You can always call or text 988. It was a lifeline for me. I've used it many times, and it was something that I preach about to the high heavens, because every time I called, every time I texted, someone was always there, especially late at night when no one's around and no one's up. So it's a great tool to have and a resource to have. If anyone's having any issues and you feel alone, you can always text or call 988, because someone will always pick up, or someone will always text you back.
Absolutely. No, 100%. 988 is definitely something everybody should know about, and a lot of people don't. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't even think about it, and they're like,
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do." And you're right, because therapy, a traditional therapist, that can be very expensive if you don't have access, that's but, now I look at it and most people have the internet. Most people have faith, get on a group, just find a community. You need to have a community of some kind. So whether you get on a bipolar support group or you get on a I lost my kid group or whatever it is, there's groups out there for everybody, that people that just understand. It's the same thing when you're looking for a coach or a therapist or anything. Like I said, 3 therapists. Find somebody that gets you, that you feel safe with, that has walked in your shoes kind of. I if someone comes to me and they say, "Tammy, I want to, use your services. I just lost my husband." I'm like, "I have a great grief counselor you can go to, or a great grief support group, or a great grief coach, but I can't help you with that. I can tell you the 5 steps of grief, and I can do it all. I can do it all, like, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Textbook.
Textbook. I can do it all textbook. But if someone comes to me, my very first client said to me, "Tammy, in 18 minutes, you told me more about why I am the way I am than 11 years in therapy." I said, "Because your therapist didn't grow up with 2 alcoholic parents. I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been there. I get it." So, is everybody for me? Absolutely not. But there's somebody out there for everybody that's looking for support.
And I think it's great what you said about, make sure you feel safe, right? Because
Mhm.
again, when I was going through the process, the same thing, I found a couple and it was like, I didn't feel safe with them. So I would go in and I would just basically like tell them what they want to hear, and then it would be over. Right. And I didn't get
Which
anything
is
out of it. I
no, you're
didn't,
not doing anything.
no, but as sometimes when you're a kid and you're going through it, you're like, oh, yep. Sometimes your parents may force you and say you got to go, so you just go, right? But not being able to feel safe, is one of the biggest things. When you walk in there and you can have a conversation, you feel safe, and the conversations, is great, and the therapist is great. It all works out, because I just had one that retired. Dr. Sigadel was mine. He was great. He retired. I hated to see him go. We built a friendship over years. I was happy. Selfishly, I was pissed that he left, but excited that he got to retire. Oh,
Right.
because I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to lose him, and that was my selfish way of being like, you can't retire. You got to, and I felt bad after because I was, you can't retire. Who's going to take care of me? And he sort of looked at me like, but it's tough. So Tammy, what brings you peace now in quiet moments when the world slows down?
Being by the water, my puppy, and just me time. I like to be alone, I'll be honest. Not
That's
to feel
awesome.
sorry for myself or to do it, just I like quiet time.
Yeah, being by the ocean's a big thing. I say it all the time. I was reading a book about it in the frequencies that come off the water in people that were happier that visited the water every day or that lived by the water were happier because the frequencies that come off the water and all that. So before I get to the last question, right, Tammy, tell people where they can find you.
Probably the easiest thing, and maybe you could put I don't even know if I gave you the link, is just go to my link tree because I have everything
Okay.
in there. I have a link to my
Okay.
podcast, my course, my absolutely everything.
Awesome.
And it's just T Vincent, it's Linktree T Vincent. But,
Okay.
that's probably the easiest way because I have everything. I do have a website, which is just my name, tammyvincent.com, but I'm updating that and changing that, so Linktree gets you all of
Yeah, if
my.
you could send me that link tree after the episode and I'll blast it
Yep,
out to everybody so they can find you.
okay.
What, social media, you want any of that or do you keep that private?
No, I can give you all the links. I
Okay,
mean, I can
perfect.
give you whatever and you
Everything will
can
be on
throw
the
in.
link tree?
Yeah. Yep. Oh,
Perfect,
yeah,
perfect.
if you go to the Linktree, everything is there, all my Instagram and Pinterest, all that, everything.
So let people know about your podcast.
So the name of my podcast is actually called Adult Child of Dysfunction. So it's healing after chaos. So it's just all stories of hope and healing, kind of what we're doing here, just giving people tips and very teaching podcasts like strategies. We're all about strategy. What did you do? What helped? What didn't help? I'm trying this year. My goal is to make it more interactive, do it so that people can maybe on YouTube, so people can actually ask questions throughout the podcast,
Okay.
which I really think, to show people that asking a question online is not gonna kill them.
Yeah, yeah,
And every time you tell your story, you heal a little bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So last question, right? If someone listening today feels lost in their pain, what's the one thing you want them to take from your story?
That it doesn't matter what your past, what looked like, what happened, the experiences, somebody has experienced them, someone is out there to support you, and no matter what happened, it did not make you who you are. It was just stuff that happened. Only you can decide who you are going forward, and if you choose to have a most magnificent life, it is there for the taking. So you are so worth it.
That's perfect. Tammy, thank you for joining the show. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you're doing,
You're very welcome.
you
It was
know.
good. It was fun. I love what
So
you're doing.
thank you so much. So, Tammy, your story isn't just powerful, it's necessary. You remind us that healing doesn't erase what happened, it reclaims what was stolen. You've shown us that pain can become purpose and that every scar can speak life if we let it. To everyone listening, if Tammy's story touched your heart, don't just listen, feel, reach out, speak your truth, and know that no trauma, no past, no mistake can write your final chapter. The fact that you're still here means you still have a purpose. Tammy Vincent, thank you for letting us walk through the raw, the real, and the redemptive. Thank you for showing us that healing isn't a fairy tale, it's a fight worth every breath. This has been Uncle Jimmy's podcast where real stories light the way for others. Until next time, keep your heart open and your spirit strong. Peace and love. Peace and love. Uncle Jimmy out.